Welcome to Bear With Us, the podcast where two women bravely explore the High Line.
One charming town and quirky event at a time.
We're here for the people, the stories, and the small moments that make this place special.
And don't worry, zero bears.
Probably.
Welcome back to Bear With Us, the podcast from Bear Paw Development, where we share the people, places, and projects that make North Central Montana so special. I'm Sarah.
And I'm Julia. Today's episode is a little bit different because we don't necessarily have someone in the hot seat, but we are joined by Paul Tuss, and we're taking some time to celebrate a pretty exciting milestone.
That's right. I'm Paul Tuss, Executive Director of Bear Paw Development. I'm joining Sarah and Julia today because it's officially been 1 year since Bear With Us launched.
Over the past year, we've had the opportunity to sit down with entrepreneurs, elected officials, nonprofit leaders, artists, educators, and community champions from all across the High Line.
We've shared the stories about economic development, downtown revitalization, tourism, local history, small businesses, agriculture, and the people who are making our communities stronger every day.
And that's really what Bear Paw Development is all about: connecting people, supporting communities, and helping great ideas become reality. This podcast has become another way for us to tell those stories and celebrate the work happening across our region.
Now, I don't know about you guys, but can you believe it's been a full year?
I can't believe that it's been a full year. We've had some crazy guests. Not crazy, I suppose, but very, very interesting guests.
Maybe one or two that were crazy.
Yeah, maybe one or two. No, no, we've learned a lot. I've really enjoyed this last year.
It was definitely a learning curve. Neither of us has ever done a podcast, so it was something we just jumped feet first and figured it out.
Absolutely. As many podcasts as there definitely isn't like a good blueprint to show you how to do it. In some ways,
don't you think that it's crazy that we found the time to do this? Because I know you two are very, very busy with your daily schedules, and the fact that we have as many episodes as we've had is a little nuts.
Yeah, looking back, I don't know exactly what we were thinking, but I'm glad we did it.
I'm glad we did it too. It has taken quite a bit of time, but I think it's been rewarding.
Yes.
It's been worth it.
So from Bear Paw's perspective, what was the vision behind creating Bear With Us? Why is storytelling important, especially to economic development?
So the story of how we started Bear With Us is actually kind of funny because it started as a joke. I had attended the governor's conference on tourism, and Julia was unable to go. And there was a session on a podcast that a group in Great Falls was doing, and they were seeing great success in telling the local stories and getting people to come to the area or get interested in the things that were going on. So I texted Julia before the session and sent her a picture of the agenda, and I was like, want to start a podcast?
And I said, sure.
And then I went into the session and I was like, well, we're starting a podcast.
Yeah. I also thought it was quite a joke when she had sent it to me. And then after the session, she's like, no, I'm serious. I was like, oh, I guess we're doing it.
And then we took like 20 minutes in my office and had a name and a premise, and
I made us a logo. And
I remember the day you two walked into my office and said, we have an idea for you. I'm not sure you're going to like it,
we didn't think
but we have an idea for you. And you pitched it to me, and that was the beginning.
Yeah, that was the beginning of us taking a ton of our time.
We were very naive about how much time we thought it was going to take.
Yeah, I also thought it would be a lot easier than it is. For anyone that has ever tried to do a podcast, the backside is certainly not as easy as people make it look.
One of the things that I think that you guys have done such a nice job at is you really represented the depth of what's happening in our region and also the geography of our region. We're 5 counties, we have 2 reservations, and you guys have really nailed it.
We're trying. It's hard sometimes. We're a big area. And so having people travel that far to come to us, or for us finding the time to travel to them, is definitely a struggle sometimes.
Yeah, it's been a challenge, but it's been fun. It's definitely got us out and about more. And And to touch on, what you asked about, why is that storytelling for economic development so important? I feel like, especially in the economic development world, we get to see these projects get off the ground. We get to see them, open, or, they get funded. And then that's kind of the end of what we get to see. And so being able to talk to the people that are on the ground and are working through finishing these projects is even more fascinating. We get to understand how truly important these projects are to their communities, and the backstory behind it. I think that's been really interesting.
And seeing the impact
Oh,
that the
yeah.
projects that we have in the communities. We don't, when we're done, sometimes we're just done. So it's kind of good seeing like what it is actually doing.
Yeah.
Is now the appropriate time to mention to everybody that we actually received a national award for this podcast?
Well, we weren't sure if we were going to, but go ahead.
Yeah, this is just real exciting. Our podcast, we submitted a submission to the National Association of Development Organizations, which is kind of our national advocacy organization in DC. And we got an impact award for this podcast. And we're going to be receiving that at their annual training conference in Reno, Nevada this fall. How exciting is that?
That's super exciting. And we appreciate you nominating us for that,
Yes.
because we love this podcast and we think it's great, but it's great to see that other people think so too.
We are officially award-winning podcasters. So
Ooh,
we are professional.
Congratulations.
So if we kind of look back at the last year, everybody's got, we've talked about it a lot with different episodes, but what were some memorable moments or favorite guests that you guys had?
I loved speaking with the curator of the Dinosaur Museum.
We brought that up so many times, but it was such a fun interview.
Yeah, he was great. Just a fascinating person to talk to. He had so much knowledge about the dinosaurs in the prehistoric period. It was just fascinating. I could have talked to him for hours.
Yeah. And we almost did. We had to
we
really
had to leave.
rein ourselves in to keep the episode to a manageable amount.
Absolutely.
Jeremiah Robinson, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh my goodness. He was brilliant.
Yeah, he was absolutely brilliant. I mean, he could pull different languages out of his pocket.
And to be recording the episode surrounded by fossils,
that was pretty cool.
in that fossil room, there was literally a bucket at our feet.
Yeah.
Of fossils.
I kind of wanted to ask him if I could be whatever they call him, an archaeologist, and dust it off, and that's kind of a dream. My other favorite is talking to Heather DePriest. I feel like that project in Chinook with the pool has just been so phenomenal. And she was one of our first guests, and she was very interesting to talk to. And she was very excited about this project that they were working on. And since then, we've gotten to see it come to fruition.
I was actually there this past weekend.
Yes,
and
isn't
they
it
did such
beautiful?
a good job.
Yeah, if you haven't been to the pool in Chinook, it is gorgeous. It is well done. I mean, I am extremely impressed by her and her team. Everyone that has volunteered for that, and then everyone who's donated.
Yes.
That's been awesome.
Every community in Montana needs a Heather.
Oh,
Yes.
yeah.
She's done
Absolutely.
such a nice job. I was at the city council meeting last week in city council, and they were talking about the pool, and there were a lot of smiles on people's faces because, that was an impossible project, and it went from impossible to possible because of her work and the work of a lot of other people too.
Yes. Their board is just great.
Yeah. And that truly shows the power of getting involved in your community and supporting the local projects. If you want something done, sometimes you just have to be the one to step up and do it.
The other podcast that I really appreciated was when we had John Morgan from Butte talking about tax increment financing. And from my perspective, that's a pretty complex idea for people to wrap their heads around. And I think that you guys did a wonderful job of interviewing him and making an otherwise pretty complex, esoteric in some ways issue relatable to people in this community in particular. I thought that was a great episode.
I'm hoping that people outside of our community also listen to that and are starting to understand how awesome a TIF district is, and that it's actually not that difficult to implement if you're willing to take the time.
Another one that stuck with me was interviewing Russ Temple.
Oh, yeah.
Just that storied career from, local government to the state level. He had a lot to contribute. So it was fascinating sitting down with him.
Yeah. A and I thought, the interview with Jay Payette was very
Oh, that one was
interesting,
great.
when they took their show over to New York. That's not necessarily what we would always consider economic development, but it's such a huge success story, for them and I think for our Havre community in general. And so I thought that was kind of fun to show that there's more fun, than just buildings and those types of projects.
Yeah, we can celebrate the arts and
Yeah.
the fun things like that.
Mhm.
How was it when you guys interviewed Doug Carricker, the outgoing mayor of Havre, and Wade Bitts, the incoming mayor of Havre? I just like the format, and Doug could talk about kind of what happened over his public service career, and Wade is just entering his public service career. I thought that was a fascinating episode.
That was a fun one.
Yeah, that was our first episode and our only episode where we had 2 guests. So it was 4 people. So we were a little terrified going into it
Yeah.
from the editing perspective, but gosh, that conversation it flowed, and it was so nice having those 2 different perspectives.
Yeah, I thought it was really cool to, talk to Doug and get Doug's perspective on, he's been through the job. He has seen the community. He's gone through the hardships, and to hear the advice that he gave Wade going in was fascinating. It definitely, I think the thing that definitely stuck with me. Wow, I can talk. The thing that definitely stuck with me in that episode was Doug saying, if someone has a problem, they need to come to you with their name attached to it. You don't need to, worry about any of the anonymous stuff online, on social media. If someone sends an anonymous letter, you can take those, with a grain of salt, but unless someone has their name attached to it, you don't need to listen. You can
Yeah.
just let it roll off. And I thought that was very interesting because we see a lot of anonymous, comments.
Collectively, I think when I look at all of the episodes combined, when I look at what you've done in totality, what's amazing to me is the incredible things that are happening in rural Montana. And particularly here on the High Line, there's a lot of stuff happening, and there's a lot of people that make that stuff happen. And so we're really celebrating the success stories of rural Montana, in my opinion.
Absolutely. And not only is there a lot of stuff happening now, there's been a lot of stuff happening. And I think that has been a really cool part of this podcast to talk about the history of how did we get here? How has our High Line been built and how has it thrived and where are we going next?
And we've brought it up a lot, but Montana in general has changed so much. I would say even in the past 6 years. And I feel like us in rural Montana, I feel like we haven't been celebrated. We haven't been highlighted. We haven't been, looked at as something that's thriving and something that's really contributing. And again, I blame Kevin Costner, but I think this podcast does a really good job of a very rural part of Montana having a spotlight shown on it in a very positive way.
Absolutely. And I think it kind of comes back to the no one's coming to save you.
Mm-hmm.
You have to save yourself. No one is coming from Bozeman or Missoula or Billings to come and interview. Very rarely are they. I shouldn't say never, but very rarely are they going to come and interview all of these people. And we have so many stories that need to be told.
100.
One of the other things that occurs to me is this podcast developed at exactly the time when in Montana, rural America, we have traditional media that is going the other way, right?
Oh, yeah.
Even in the last year, we've had a couple of local newspapers, including here in Havre, that have shuttered their doors. And so this is just one more way of getting the word out about things happening in our community. Kind of almost replacing in some ways that traditional media that you're used to.
We're adaptable up in rural Montana. We have to flow with the changes and do what we can.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been quite a change losing newspapers. I didn't know how big of a change it would be. With social media and everything, it seemed like maybe if newspapers went away that they wouldn't be missed as much, but man, is it difficult to get the word out.
I somewhat jokingly told folks recently when it was discovered that the Havre Daily News was no longer going to publish that in some ways I know more about what's happening globally than I know what's happening at my city council meeting or my school board meeting, right? Because there's a whole bunch of press outlets. You just need to Google what's happening, and you can find out what's happening in the Strait of Hormuz. But I'm not sure what happened with our local school board.
Yeah, I think that you really have to be an engaged community member at this point. I feel like we have, in the last like 10 years, you've kind of gotten to take a step back a little bit because you could watch things through the newspaper and through social media, and it's almost gotten harder.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's going to make a turn, but you have to engage yourself if you want to know what's going on.
And I feel like that's a really good transition to kind of pick your brain, Paul, just as the executive director of Bear Paw Development. What do you feel like this podcast has meant for Bear Paw or has done for Bear Paw?
One of the things that I think is really important is that I think that economic development in general, but certainly at Bear Paw Development, we have our nose to the grindstone and we're working on a project. And when that project is complete, we go on to the next project without coming up for air. And so by doing that, we never have an opportunity to really talk about the successes that we've had. And I think this podcast has kind of institutionalized for Bear Paw Development the opportunity to talk about those successes, to talk about the people that make things happen in our 5 county region. And so it's really a good chance for us to kind of pat ourselves on the back, but also pat on the back those people that make the wheels turn in northern Montana.
Yeah, I'm sure that, in their little circles that people know what they're doing and how much work that they're putting into their projects. But as a whole, their whole community might not know, and certainly the whole district of Bear Paw doesn't know, and they deserve that. Congratulations.
It's also kind of raw. I mean, to be honest
Yeah.
with you, you guys do editing for ums and pregnant pauses, but what you see is what you get on this podcast, right?
Yeah, very rarely do we cut things out.
No, we're not sitting here in front of a microphone reading from a press release, right? This is kind of like what's happening in my mind right now is coming out of my mouth, and it's going to be on the podcast. So I kind of like the spontaneity of that. It's real.
It is.
Is.
And we have, every time a guest comes in, they're like, oh, I'm really scared I'm going to say something. We're like, no, it's just a conversation. We're just going to sit down and talk about what you're doing and what you're enjoying. And, sometimes people bring little notes to make sure that they are, on track with what they want to talk about when it comes to an event or, little details. But for the most part, it is everyone's true life story.
And I don't know how many times when I'm scheduling somebody, they ask for the questions ahead of time. And nope, we don't even have the questions ahead of time.
I asked for the questions and you said no. And then remember, we had to redo the podcast because of technical difficulties. And you had new questions for me.
We're quick on our feet.
The other thing that I think is really important about this podcast is that we're celebrating partnerships and really accentuating, underscoring the fact that none of the projects or things that we work on here at Bear Paw or anywhere in our region happen with one person, with one organization, and oftentimes with one funding source, right? So it's really the partnerships that make things happen.
Yeah. I think the partnerships is what Bear Paw Development is all about, right? That's part of our slogan, is using partnerships to move everything forward in northern Montana. And we couldn't do it without all of these people. All the people that we've talked to, their communities couldn't thrive without them. Bear Paw wouldn't be here without them. And I'm excited, going forward into this next year to talk to more of our partners.
And kind of, as we head into the second year and the second chapter of Bear With Us, Julie and I did want to kind of touch on a few changes that might be happening with the podcast. Previously, when we launched the podcast, we were very ambitious and we wanted to have an episode every 2 weeks. And we quickly discovered that is not conducive with our schedules. So we are going to move into an episode once a month. We just want to make sure we're delivering some quality episodes, some good topics. Julie, do you want to kind of touch on what all goes into an episode?
Yeah, absolutely. So obviously we have to find guests, and then we have to work around their schedule and work around our schedules. And that alone is a little bit difficult when podcasting is not your full-time job. But then, of course, we have to record the episode, and then we have to edit said episode with our very limited knowledge and understanding of how to edit.
Yes.
So it takes some time, and a lot of time, I'm editing on my own time because I just don't have time in my workday. So a lot goes into it, and once a month is about all we can handle at this point.
And I think we learned that if you look at the episodes that we released this spring.
Yeah.
That is when we learned that every 2 weeks
Is impossible.
was just not going to happen.
Yeah.
Springtime happens to be the busiest time.
Yeah,
for us.
absolutely. We are running like chickens with our heads cut off. And, we have a lot of conferences in April and May and even March. And so we don't have time to get together. We don't have time to get people on the podcast. We had a lot of people want to be on the podcast, but not have time to come and meet with us. So it might even be every spring we take a little bit of a break, a little bit of a breather, if we don't have podcasts that are pre-done.
I think that change is really fitting. I mean, you guys have been around here long enough to know that during those months, during the spring months, it's pretty crazy. I mean, you guys are out working alongside our community partners, you're writing grants, and, many of those projects eventually become the stories that you guys are going to highlight on this podcast.
Yeah, and we want to make sure that those stories are told well and not rushed. And we want to make sure that we're in the right headspace to ask the right questions. We don't ever want to make anyone feel like they're a burden coming in. And so I think just taking a step back and taking our time to do each episode is what this is going to need.
And if we find that we can pre-record some episodes to release during that time, that would be great. But just making sure that we're prioritizing the work we're doing for our communities. That's
Absolutely.
definitely going to be something that we do moving forward.
Yeah, that's what Bear Paw's all about, right? Is our getting things done. And Sarah and I have very important jobs at Bear Paw that do come first. So
I
unfortunately.
do know that we have some guests in the offing. We have some guests waiting in the wings.
Yeah,
we already have some approvals from folks that are willing to do the podcast, and those folks are going to be tremendous.
Very
They are.
exciting guests.
Yes. I think to give some teasers, we're going to have previous senators. We might have an outgoing chancellor.
You're not
Who
teasing
could that
her.
Who could that be?
Maybe a public works director.
We're really trying to get some high quality guests in here and have some great conversations.
Yeah. And on that note, if our listeners have any ideas of guests they want to hear from in Northern Montana or in Montana in general, we would love to hear from you. We have a lot of contacts around the state, and we can get in touch with just about anybody.
I'll track them down.
Yeah, we'll track them down. We'll find them. But we would love to hear from our listeners on what type of content you guys would like to hear about and what type of guests you want.
And, there's sometimes a lot of projects going on in these smaller communities that we may not know about. We
Yeah.
try to have our hands in as many things as we can, but people, on the ground and in these smaller towns, if you have something exciting going on, we want to hear about it. We want to showcase it. And we want to celebrate it.
Absolutely. And again, I want to reiterate that when you come on the podcast, it's not scary. So even if you're afraid of public speaking, you're only speaking to Sarah and I.
And we have not made anybody cry yet that we know of.
Are you guys still asking the bear question?
Yeah.
Yes.
Absolutely. And that will
Every
never
time.
go away.
Yep. Should we ask you a bear question?
Oh, goodness. We didn't get one ready.
Yeah. Let's see. If a bear were to come on our podcast and give us a good roar, what would it sound like?
I really hope everybody else in the office heard that and is very confused by what is happening.
And you guys always ask, don't you always ask the proverbial question about bobcat versus grizzly?
Yeah, we do. Yeah,
We've already asked you that. We know that.
Yeah,
you're
we know
on
where
the
I am on
You're
this.
not on
Yeah.
the right team. You're on the wrong team.
Go, Grizz.
I do want to take just a quick minute and extend the most sincerest thank you to everybody who has listened, everybody who's come on the show, and everybody who has any kind of part in what we've been trying to do over this past year. We truly could not have done this without you, and we definitely would not be an award-winning podcast without the assistance of everybody out there.
Absolutely. This past year has really reminded us of just how many incredible people and organizations, businesses, and communities that call the Highline home. Every conversation has been a chance to learn something new and celebrate the work happening across North Central Montana.
From everyone at Bear Paw Development, thank you for supporting this podcast and the stories we get to tell. It's been rewarding to highlight the partnerships, innovation, and community spirit that make our region unique, and we're excited to continue sharing those stories in the year ahead.
So we'll be back with new episodes each month. And while you may notice that short pause during April and May for our spring project schedule, we will return with more conversations that showcase the people and projects making a difference across our communities.
And once again, if you know someone whose story deserves to be told, we'd love to hear from you. And as always, thanks for bearing with us.